best French life is, I think, in town rather than in the countryside. This video is about moving to a small French coastal town and buying an old house there and addressing the problems of damp and structural instability that you often find in such old buildings, and at the same time improving its energy performance and using materials that are green. Initially, I'm concentrating on making the 2 top floors habitable, insulating the roof with wood fibre and the walls with sprayed hemp, and putting in partitions on the very top floor under the eaves to create a bedroom, a bathroom and a workspace with a view of the harbour. I'm building the partitions the British way with a wooden structure, but then facing them with OSB, with oriented strand board, so I can avoid having too much plasterboard in the building. .5. So the plan here was always to produce really strong stuff on this top floor to stabilise the roof. And so the plan always was to use T&G OSB, oriented strand board, which I'm using here, in the partitions, wedge these up against the roof and create a monocoque structure, something a bit like the old mosquito aeroplane with stressed skins. I signally failed to persuade my artisans that this was a good idea, and the thing is, in France you can't just tell artisans what to do. They have a legal responsibility for their work, and so they tend to be rather cautious. So we're sticking with the nice strong stuff here, but I'm afraid the ceiling, which looks similar, is actually hung off the rafters behind on little metal little suspension brackets, and so that's not quite as strong as I had hoped. But nonetheless, we're carrying on with this plan. And the other thing about this is, of course, that I'm an architect. I'm not a craftsman, so this is my first ever partition, and I'm putting the insulation inside. I've done the far side, we're just doing this side now, and then working up with the T&G OSB, and we'll put some insulation in and see how that goes. In Britain, and I'm obviously a British architect more than I'm a French architect, you always insulate in partitions, and this is the standard way of doing it. In France, the tradition is to have much lighter weight partitions with thin metal structure, and I think that was part of the problem with my artisans. They didn't really understand what I was suggesting and how strong I intended to make this top floor. They were worried about weight, and what I wanted to produce was strength. So there was a difference of national characteristics there going on, perhaps. The insulation I'm using is called biofib, and it is a mixture of essentially hemp and cotton. So it's not only very good for the environment, it's also not injurious to your health. So I don't need to wear any protective clothing to handle it. Here I'm measuring up for the OSB lining. This has to be done very precisely because, of course, I'm not filling the joints as I would be if I were using plasterboard, where you can get away with much more roughness of construction. I hadn't realised how much time this was going to take. Well, it suddenly got all quiet and peaceful here in the main living floor of my new old house, because this window has just gone in. So I'm enjoying the sense of calm. I'm also looking at the local paper here, Le Telegram, and the big controversy here in Douarnenez at the moment is an article in Elle magazine. Is Douarnenez the new Saint-Tropez? Well, maybe there is some justice in this comparison, because Douarnenez is a very interesting place and lots of tourists do come here, but very much a working class town, and there is a great deal of resentment about the comparison. During the 1920s, the women of the town who used to work in the canning factories while the men were out in their fishing boats, fishing for sardines in the bay, well, the women were in rows in Breton dress and canning fish and becoming radicalised. And they grew increasingly dissatisfied with their working conditions and their pay, so they went on strike. They walked down the quayside waving red flags. Extreme left-wing politics was very definitely what was current then in Douarnenez, and this survives to the present day. The idea that we're a bit like Saint-Tropez isn't going down very well with large proportions of the population. There again, those of us who have bought houses here are thinking, well, a little bit of prosperity, Saint-Tropez type prosperity might not come amiss. So finally Christophe came and took out the window which I had temporarily put in, grumbled about the masons who'd done the render terribly badly. I didn't admit that I'd done the render. I said, oh yeah, these masons, bad lot. So there it is, nicely in place, double glazed, toughened, nice view of the harbour.
Alors, le plus haut possible.
Le plus haut possible.
Pour le moment, ouais.
Ok.
Ok, doucement. Pour pas qu'il y ait trop de sable qui tombe.
Ouais.
Là, on va jusqu'au joint. Plus vers l'extérieur. Ok, en pause.
En pause. Ok.
Attends. Prise.
Hard working so you can be deserving of the rest that you are given. You gotta slow down and look around you, son. Give a lot and live a little. Work with what you got. Where you're going, you can rest your head. Where you're going, brightness looks big. Where you're going, truth